You know that Sunday night feeling when you're lying in bed, scrolling through your phone, and your stomach tightens because tomorrow is Monday? That pit in your gut that whispers, is this it? Is this what the next 30 years looks like? Here's the thing most people won't tell you. 532,000 Americans filed official IRS paperwork to start a business last month. Not last year. Last month, January in 2026. I'm Fred. And I spend way too much time dissecting economic data so you don't have to. And what I'm about to show you will make you see your career and your definition of security completely differently. Because while you're debating whether it's realistic to bet on yourself, over 500,000 people already made that bet in the last 30 days. Stay with me, because the math behind this wave will either terrify you or set you free. Before 2020, America averaged 290,000 business applications per month. For over a decade. Stable, predictable. Economists called it normal. Here's what changed. January 2026, 532,319 applications in 31 days. That's not double the old baseline, that's nearly double. You're not witnessing a recovery, you're witnessing a complete reorganization of how Americans earn money. Why does this matter to you specifically? Because Federal Reserve economists identified a step-up pattern that never returned to pre-2020 levels. Translation: the floor moved permanently. Even when everything supposedly stabilized, the rate stayed elevated. Your competition for traditional employment just got fiercer, while your opportunity for ownership just expanded. You're standing at a fork in the road, whether you realize it or not. The U.S. Treasury calls these acts of hope. Over 500,000 people per month are betting their futures on entrepreneurship, despite every expert screaming that the economy is unstable. They're not ignoring the risk. They're recalculating it. Here's the thing. 2024 averaged 430,000 applications per month. Experts declared that the new ceiling, they were wrong. January's 532,000 proves we're in a secondary breakout. The wave isn't cresting, it's building. Since 2019, business formation has sustained 50% higher than any period in the previous decade. The U.S. Treasury confirmed it. 50% for years. This isn't fluctuation. This is your new economic reality. So ask yourself, why are more Americans choosing entrepreneurship now than at any point in modern history? What do they know about traditional employment that you're still hoping isn't true? These numbers come from IRS Form SS4 filings. Tax paperwork. Every single application represents someone who stopped thinking and started filing. This isn't a survey of intentions. This is a count of actions. But here's where it gets deeper. The surge isn't just quantity. There's a quality shift separating people who are panic scrambling from people who are strategically positioning. That distinction? That's the difference between becoming your own boss and becoming your own worst employee. Let me show you how to tell the difference. Out of January's 532,000 applications, 147,516 are classified as high-propensity business applications. Why should you care about that filter? Because it separates real businesses from side hustle fantasies. The Census Bureau tracks planned wage payments, corporate structures, proven industry sectors. They're measuring commitment. They're measuring your actual odds of still being in business 12 months from now. Here's where the math gets interesting. High-propensity applications grew 8.0%. General applications grew 7.2%. The serious businesses are outpacing the side hustles. Quality is beating quantity. You know what that means? The people who commit fully are pulling away from the people who dabble. 39,191 applications indicated a planned date for paying wages. They're entering with headcount in mind, not solo operations, not freelance experiments. Actual businesses planning to hire actual people. That's your future employer. Or that's you as the future employer. Which side of that equation do you want to be on? Corporate applications rose 6.6% to 44,245. People are choosing formal legal structures over sole proprietorships. You don't file as a corporation casually. You're signaling long-term thinking. You're protecting yourself. You're building something designed to outlast you. Here's the thing. The Census Bureau did that changes everything. They now exclude internet retail from high-propensity counts. They filtered out drop-shipping noise, that 147,000 figure. It's brick-and-mortar and service businesses. Real value creation, not arbitrage. Not flipping products from AliExpress. Where are these applications concentrated? Construction, professional services, healthcare, not retail. These are capital-intensive, skill-based businesses requiring expertise and investment. You don't accidentally start a construction company. These are deliberate career pivots by people with something to lose. The census project's 29,863 will become employer firms within 4 quarters, 1 year, businesses that hire people. They also project 40,886 total formations within 8 quarters. That's a 6.5% increase in confidence compared to previous cohorts. Why does that number matter to your life? Because small businesses started since 2019 now create 70% of net new American jobs, up from 64%. If you're looking for employment, your next boss probably filed their LLC in the last 5 years. If you're looking for opportunity, you're competing with people who've already crossed the threshold from employee to owner. These businesses contribute 43% of U.S. GDP, nearly half of American economic output. This isn't a marginal story about dreamers and garage startups. This is the core engine of how your economy functions right now. But this wave isn't hitting everywhere equally. Regional patterns reveal who's winning and who's getting left behind. The South, 235,572 applications, 44% of all American business activity, nearly half. What does that concentration mean for you? If you're in the South, you're surrounded by opportunity and competition simultaneously. Lower cost of living, business-friendly regulations, population flowing in. If you're not in the South, your region is losing entrepreneurial energy to places where the math works better. But here's the surprise that changes the narrative. The Midwest saw 10.1% growth, highest in the nation. The region everyone writes off as declining industrial states just posted the strongest percentage surge in entrepreneurship. You know what that tells you? Something is catalyzing business formation in traditionally overlooked markets. Why is the Midwest exploding right now? Manufacturing restructuring, remote work enabling service businesses in low-cost areas, generational transitions as boomers retire and Gen X takes over or it starts fresh. Whatever the cause, there's a window opening that won't stay open forever. The West followed with 9.6% growth. Not just California, mountain states, Pacific Northwest. The entrepreneurial wave is geographically diverse. Opportunity isn't confined to traditional hubs anymore. Here's the thing about that 7.2% overall increase from December to January. It's seasonally adjusted. The government already removed the predictable New Year's resolution bump. Even after accounting for January optimism, the growth is massive. This isn't people making hopeful plans. This is sustained action. Raw, unadjusted numbers often exceed 500,000. That's a tax ID request every 5 seconds. Real administrative action, not intent. Action. Why does regional diversity matter to your decisions? Because all 4 major regions are growing with different leaders in volume versus percentage. This isn't one national trend with one cause. This is multiple simultaneous forces creating different opportunities in different places. Your geographic advantage or disadvantage just became more extreme. You can either leverage where you are or move to where the math works better. But before you make any decision based on these numbers, you need to know, how accurate is this data? Because if the methodology is flawed, everything I just told you is fiction. Let me show you why you can trust what you're seeing with absolute confidence. February 11, 2026. The Census Bureau fully transitioned to 2022 North American Industry Classification System coding. What does that actually mean for you? The data now reflects modern digital industries. It's not categorizing your potential business using economic models from the 90s. If you're starting something in AI, remote services, or digital-first industries, you're finally being counted accurately. This data comes directly from IRS Form SS4 filings, tax paperwork, not surveys where people exaggerate, not estimates based on sampling. Every application is a real person submitting official paperwork to the federal government. You can't fake an EIN request. Here's why the exclusion of internet retail changes everything. The census cleaned the data of dropshipping noise. They're measuring brick-and-mortar and service-based value creation. If you're comparing yourself to these numbers, you're comparing yourself to real businesses, not people importing trinkets from Alibaba. The census uses a longitudinal business database tracking, which applications actually start paying taxes and hiring employees. They follow businesses over time. They confirm these aren't ghost filings or abandoned ideas. The projections you're seeing, they're based on conversion rates from previous cohorts that actually became operating businesses. The February 2026 release included the annual update. The census revised 5 years of data upward. The entrepreneurial surge was stronger than initially reported. Our previous understanding underestimated reality. You know what that means? The opportunity was bigger than we thought, and we're still underestimating it. The Busapta series on Fred lets you verify everything I'm telling you. Federal Reserve economic data. Publicly available. Pull the 10-year charts yourself. The transparency isn't accidental. It's designed so you can't dismiss this as opinion. Why does accuracy matter to your next move? Because if you're making a career decision, staying employed, starting a business, changing industries, based on economic trends, understanding that you're in genuine historic transformation changes everything. This isn't a data artifact. This isn't media hype. This is structural reorganization of the American economy happening while you're deciding whether to hit the gas or the brakes. So what's actually driving this wave? The numbers tell you what. But understanding why reveals whether you should participate or stay on the sidelines. Force number 1, the confidence paradox. 2/3 of new business owners are very optimistic about success over the next 12 months. During economic uncertainty, during inflation, during recession warnings, 2/3. Here's why that matters to you. When the job market is tight, you feel more confident betting on yourself because employment is your safety net. If entrepreneurship fails, you return to a traditional job. The tight labor market isn't just raising wages, it's reducing your perceived risk of ownership. You have less to lose than you think. Force number 2, the AI catalyst. AI and automation are letting micro businesses operate with the power of much larger firms. You can automate customer service, scheduling, marketing, accounting. Tasks that required hiring 5 people can now be handled by you in software. Why does that change your calculus? Because high-propensity applications are outpacing general filings, 8% versus 7.2%. People are starting sophisticated, technology-enabled ventures, not simple service businesses. The barrier to competing with established firms just collapsed. Your disadvantage as a small player just became your advantage as an agile player. Force number 3, necessity versus opportunity pivot. 2020 was a necessity entrepreneurship. People started businesses because they lost jobs. Survival. 2026 is opportunity entrepreneurship. People are leaving good jobs to build something better. How do we know? Corporate structure growth. 44,245 applications, planned wage payments, 39,000 applications with hiring intent. These are strategic career moves, not desperate survival measures. People aren't fleeing unemployment. They're choosing ownership over employment. You can either watch that happen or join them. Force number 4, remote work infrastructure. Hybrid and remote work lowered the barrier to entry for professional services. Overhead costs collapsed. You can launch consulting, design, technology, high-value businesses without office leases. You don't need Manhattan rent to serve Manhattan clients. Here's what that means for your location. The Midwest and West seeing 10.1 and 9.6% growth. Entrepreneurs in low-cost regions competing for national clients without relocating to expensive coastal cities. Geography is no longer destiny. Your zip code just became negotiable. Force number 5, the wealth transfer. Trillions transferring to younger generations means more seed capital for initial filing and startup costs. But it's not just money. It's a different relationship with traditional employment. They watched parents lose jobs in 2008. They watched corporate layoffs during the pandemic. They learned corporate loyalty is fiction. Here's the pattern you need to see. A generation assessing risk differently than their parents. They don't see traditional employment as safe. They see it as precarious. They don't see entrepreneurship as risky. They see it as a controllable risk where they have agency instead of being subject to someone else's quarterly earnings call. But every application represents a human abandoning the safety net. Understanding what's at stake reveals both the hope and the vulnerability of this moment. 532,319 applications in 1 month. Over 500,000 people chose to risk financial security, forgo employer benefits, and bet their livelihoods on an uncertain venture. What did they give up for you to understand this? Traditional jobs provide health insurance, retirement contributions, paid leave, unemployment insurance, predictable income. Every application represents someone rebuilding these systems independently or going without. That's not just courage. That's vulnerability. 29,863 projected to become employer firms within 4 quarters. That means the vast majority won't. Entrepreneurship has always been high failure. Hundreds of thousands are accepting those odds monthly. You need to decide if you're accepting them too. 70% of net new American jobs now come from small businesses started since 2019. Local employment depends on entrepreneurial success. And when these businesses fail, it's not individual dreams collapsing. It's community economic stability fracturing. High propensity filings, densis in construction, professional services, healthcare. Entrepreneurial failure in these sectors directly affects housing development, business services, healthcare access. These aren't abstract numbers. These are the people building your house, managing your business operations, providing your medical care. The South accounting for 44% creates concentration of risk and opportunity. If this wave succeeds, Southern dominance accelerates. If it fails, regional devastation. Here's what nobody's saying clearly. The shift from 64 to 70% of new jobs coming from small businesses represents fundamental change in the American employment model. Corporate employment economy to entrepreneurial risk economy. Your safety net just changed whether you participated in the change or not. The Treasury's Acts of Hope framing reveals government recognition. These aren't just filings. They're expressions of faith in the American dream during institutional distrust. People choosing self-reliance over corporate stability. Whether this surge represents innovation and liberation or precarious self-employment will determine the financial security for millions over the next decade. You're watching the biggest shift in how Americans work in modern history. 532,000 people made a decision last month. The infrastructure exists, the tools exist, the market exists, the only variable is you. You can build optionality and strength, or you can watch others build it while you wait for permission that's never coming.